What you see behind me is not a broken castle, it's the last breath of a dynasty, the bloodline of Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland. Here, on the edge of the Burren, the Dalcassans carved their history into stone, and time has been erasing it grain by grain ever since. If you stand still for a moment, you can almost hear them, chieftains, warriors, and one woman whose name was feared more than any sword. The first stone of Leamaneh Castle was laid in the 1480s by Turla Donn O'Brien, a chieftain descendant from greatness, a man whose blood carried the memory of Ireland's High King, Brian Boru. Leamaneh Castle wasn't built all at once. The first part of the structure, the 5-story tower house, rose out of the Burren sometime in the 1480s, a vertical block of power built by Turla Donn O'Brien. Its bottom floor was for storage and livestock. The middle floors housed family and guards, and the top, a battlement level, watched over the land ready for attack. This was pure Gaelic architecture, functional, defensive, and proud. But a century and a half later, the world and the house began to change. Around 1648, Conor O'Brien and Máire Rua added a new wing, a grand 4-story mansion attached to the old tower. It looked nothing like the older stone keep. This one had larger windows, taller ceilings, and a long central hall, more for entertaining than for defending. It was the architecture of ambition, a statement that the O'Briens didn't just want to survive the world, they wanted to rule in it. Fireplaces, carved stone frames, even a spiral staircase, all of it reflected a Gaelic nobility trying to keep its heritage while stepping into a newer European style of living. For a moment in time, Leamenah stood as both fortress and a family seat, a reminder that even in a world of swords and politics, people still dreamed of comfort, legacy, and beauty. Before this castle stood, before its walls were raised against wind and war, the ancestors of the O'Briens ruled not just counties or baronies, but kingdoms. They were the Dalcassans, a Gaelic clan born in the hills and the glens of Munster, hardened by battle, bound by loyalty, and raised on the poetry of the land. And at the heart of their story stood one man, a warrior, a leader, a king who refused to bow to foreign power. His name was Brian Boru. In the late 1014, he became a name that would live forever in Irish memory, not only because he defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Clontarf, but because he united a fractured Ireland. He saw a country of broken tribes and forged them into something stronger, a promise of what Ireland could be when her people stood together. He reformed the laws, revived the monasteries, brought peace to lands dripping with centuries of war, a king of action, but also of wisdom. And centuries later, his descendants built this tower, not just to defend themselves, but to carry the flame forward. Leamaneh Castle was more than just a stone. It was a vow that the spirit of the High Kings would not die quietly, that the O'Briens of Thomond were still here, proud, Gaelic, and undefeated in their hearts. When you look at this tower, you are not just looking at a building, you are looking at the last echo of a royal line that once stood shoulder to shoulder with legends, and they dared to carve their legacy in the lonely limestone of the Burren. Thick walls, narrow windows, and the constant presence of clan warriors made sure that the O'Briens not only survived, they thrived. But Leamenah wasn't yet finished. Its most defining chapter was written nearly 2 centuries later by a woman. Her name was Máire Rua, or history remembers her as Red Mary. She was born around 1615 into a wealthy Irish family, married first to Daniel O'Neilan of Dromore, and later in 1639 to Conor O'Brien of Leamenah. With her came money, with Conor came power. Together they transformed the medieval tower into something entirely new, a manor house, a symbol not just of defense but of wealth and stats. By 1648, the O'Briens of Leamenah had built a new wing, added grand windows and turned a fortress into something close to an Irish palace. This was a couple living at the height of Gaelic aristocracy. By the 1650s, the English conquest of Ireland was sweeping through the land. Oliver Cromwell's forces were reducing castles to dust, seizing land and breaking the power of old Irish families. And one of the names on their list was Conor O'Brien. He died in 1651, fighting a doomed war against the Cromwellians. Máire Rua, now widowed with 11 children, was left with a chance: lose everything or make a deal with the enemy. And this is where the legend begins. People say Máire Rua had 3 husbands, that she married the first for land, the second for love, and third for survival. Some stories claim she pushed one husband out a window. Others say she poisoned another. Some even say she hung servants out the windows by their hair to remind them who was the boss. But here is what we actually know. She did marry a Cromwellian officer, Cornet John Cooper, not for love, but to keep her lands. It was a brutal time, and Máire Rua wasn't playing a romantic game. She was playing the game of survival, and she won, at least for a while. When Cooper had served his usefulness, she left him and transferred her property to her son Donogh. A bloodline served. One of the oldest legends tied to the castle claims that its name, Leamenah, comes from the Irish for the horse's leap. Some say Red Mary promised to marry the man who could leap his horse over the castle walls. Others say she ordered prisoners thrown from atop the battlements on horseback for her entertainment. Stories built on whispers. This place stands at a crossroads of 3 ancient baronies where men once leaped between kingdoms with blood as their witness. So who was she? Monster, matriarch, murderer, mastermind? The truth is that Máire Rua was a woman of her time, ruthless when she had to be, strategic when she couldn't afford not to be. She held property. She married for land, power, and survival. She raised children and walked into the world of landlords, parliament, and English wealth. And she did it all while being remembered in folk songs, fireside stories, and ghostly whispers across County Clare. By the late 1600s, Leamaneh Castle had already started to lose its place in the story. Donogh O'Brien, Máire Rua's son, moved east to Dromoland Castle, a newer estate, a safer world. Piece by piece, Leamaneh Castle was left to the wind. Some of its windows, doors, and fireplaces were taken and reused elsewhere. The castle was gutted. The roots of the O'Briens shifted. Wealth survived, but this house didn't. The line of kings and chieftains moved on. The stone stayed behind. Now only the walls remain, a hollow tower, a broken hall, a story half written, half stolen by time. The land around it now is private. No doors, no gates, only cattle and crows walk through its shadow now. But the Burren still remembers, and the wind still speaks. Power fades, families rise and fall, castles crumble, but the story never truly dies. Here at Leamenah, a bloodline that reached all the way to the high kings of Ireland ended in stone, legend, and silence. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. See you among the ruins of another story up here, Slongofoil.